She is one of the most recognizable actresses in Hollywood, who's adored by the audience for her sincerity, spontaneity, and humor. Sandra Bullock has gone from an unknown waitress to an Academy Award winner and one of the highest paid actresses in the world. But what is hidden behind the image of the girl next door? Which movie changed her life forever? What made her put her career on pause at one point? And how did she manage to overcome the losses and return to the spotlight again? This is the Biographer channel, and today we will open the door to the real, imperfect life of Sandra Bullock. Sit back, we're getting started. Sandra Annette Bullock was born on July 26, 1964 in the suburbs of Washington, Arlington County, Virginia. The mother of the future star, Helga Matilda Niemeyer, was an opera singer from Germany, and her father, John Wilson Bullock, an Army employee and part-time vocal coach from Birmingham, Alabama. Bullock's maternal grandfather was a German rocket scientist from Nuremberg. In his youth, her father worked as a blacksmith in order to get into the famous Juilliard School of the Arts, where he wanted to fulfill his dream of becoming an opera singer. Instead, he trained as an opera vocal coach, thereby partially fulfilling a cherished dream. Sandra Bullock's parents met in Germany when John worked at the Pentagon after serving in the Army, and Helga was his secretary. Later, they seriously engaged in a musical career. Mother began to sing in the opera, and father became a vocal coach. The couple had two daughters, Sandra and Jazina, who is 6 years younger. There was always singing in their house. Sandra often felt awkward because of her parents singing, as it could be heard even outside, and the girl wondered why mom and dad were constantly singing and, quote, can't be normal people. However, she really liked how friendly the atmosphere was in the family, where everyone joked and was open.
Father has an incredible sense of humor, so as a child, everything was about great storytelling and great jokes. Everything was funny in our household. I mean, anytime at the dinner table you could, fling something across the table or embarrass somebody or bring up a topic that's unacceptable for the dinner table. It was done. So, I mean, that's the atmosphere I grew up. I know it's a surprise to you. You'd think I had a lot of etiquette in my upbringing.
Helga wanted her daughters to follow in her footsteps. The girls took vocal and ballet lessons, learned to play the piano, sang in the children's opera choir, but did not show a particular love for music. They sometimes accompanied their mother on tour, and Sandra was even entrusted with small roles in her mother's opera productions, which brought her pleasure. Although Helga was always busy with her career, she also found time for education and taught her daughters a lot. She always told children that they should be original and not adjust to anyone. Sandra had a hard time accepting that simple truth because she believed that she had to please everyone to be accepted. Helga taught her daughters self-reliance and independence. My mother instilled that in me and my sister. Make your own way. You don't need a man to get where you want to go. Make your own money. Get your own career together. And then if you happen to meet a great guy, you'll meet him on a good level. For 12 years, Bullock was raised in Nuremberg, Germany, where she received a Waldorf education, and for several more years, the family lived in Vienna and Salzburg in Austria. Therefore, the girl grew up speaking German. A career as a pianist or an opera singer did not appeal to Sandra, although she had good vocal skills. So the girl did everything in her power not to enter a musical school. She was more interested in theater and acting. The girl's childhood was spent traveling because her family often flew from America to Europe and back due to her mother's tours. They finally moved to America when Sandra turned 12. At Washington Lee High School, where the girl began her education, other children saw Bullock as a foreigner and bullied her for wearing old-fashioned clothes bought in Germany. Sandra decided to conquer the hearts of American teenagers in the simplest but no less effective way. The girl took a film camera from her father and persuaded her peers to take part in an amateur film. The decisive argument was that she skillfully parodied famous Hollywood actors. So the schoolgirl managed to sway most of her classmates to her side, as well as become popular at school, because she was a cheerleader, performed in school theater productions, and also dated a high school athlete. By the way, Sandra loved her cheerleader uniform so much that she still keeps it among her treasured memorabilia. Sandra, who received the title most likely to brighten up your day, was destined to become the class's favorite. She changed her image and now went to school in torn jeans and also disturbed the teachers with her pranks. Once, she got so drunk that she fell asleep in the school gym where the principal found her. However, popularity at school did not save the girl from her first love disappointment. Sandra's boyfriend, who half the girls at school were crazy about, was handsome and persistent, but not very smart. He did not want to be satisfied with hugs and kisses and demanded proof of love from Bullock. Sandra decided to break up with him and pursue her dream. to become an actress. After graduating in 1982, Bullock attended East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina, where she earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in drama in 1987. While studying at ECU, she was one of the most notable students in the theater department and acted in several productions such as Peter Pan and Three Sisters. After graduating from university, Sandra decided to try her hand in New York. Her parents supported their daughter's decision because they understood how difficult it was for novice artists to break through. They advised her to give her all and go for her goal. Sandra's only goal was to become an actress. As backup options, the girl considered the possibility of working as a photo model or flight attendant. However, for the world of fashion, Sandra was too short and not slender enough, and flying required special education. After chatting with her unfortunate colleagues, young people who came to the big city with high hopes, Bullock got a job as a waitress in a bar on 47th Street and enrolled in acting classes at the Neighborhood Playhouse Theater School. There, she became a student of the well-known teacher Sanford Meisner, who at one time trained Robert Duvall, Diane Keaton, and Joan Woodward. The money needed to pay for education was not easy for Sandra. The bar in which she worked turned out to be far from a pleasant place with a very dubious audience. Later, the actress recalled that she was almost raped there several times. Acting classes, where Sandra spent all evenings, became her favorite place. The teachers did not know what financial difficulties she was facing, but they were convinced that with her talent and perseverance, Sandra would definitely succeed. Compliments from adults and sincere admiration in the eyes of fellow students gave her self-confidence. After 3 years of study, in the summer of 1985, Bullock began going to auditions. Seeing a girl in worn jeans, a wide sweater, and with an unremarkable appearance, the directors were extremely surprised, since most of the young applicants for the role bet on mini skirts, silicone, and bright lipstick. Bullock, with her natural beauty and innate directness, caused them nothing but pity. It was too ordinary and simple for the widescreen. However, she still managed to get several roles. Sandra appeared in several student films and later had a role in the off-Broadway play No Time Flat. Director Alan J. Levi was impressed with Bullock's performance and offered her a role in the made-for-TV movie Bionic Showdown, The $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. This led to her landing a series of small roles in several independent films, as well as the lead role in the 1990 NBC television version of Working Girl. However, only 6 episodes were released, after which all the actors, including Sandra, were shown the door. Extremely disappointed with the Big Apple, Bullock decided to catch her luck in California, the capital of world cinema, and, as it turned out later, it was a great decision. In California, Sandra began to go to auditions again and actively play in mass productions where it was not necessary to look spectacular and bright. Bullock's patience was soon rewarded. In 1991, she got a role in the romantic comedy Love Elixir No. 9. The casting director, seeing Bullock in a crowd of applicants dressed in denim overalls and with her hair tied in a messy ponytail, thought, "The same girl next door as Julia Roberts, only she will cost us much less." That's how Sandra got her first prominent role and won the heart of her coworker, Tate Donovan, whom she soon started dating.
So this is a date?
This is definitely a date.
Okay.
Bullock's career developed much faster than the relationship with Donovan. Sylvester Stallone, who saw the American Cinderella in Love Elixir No. 9, helped the young actress get the role of Lieutenant Lenina Huxley in the film Demolition Man. The movie received mixed reviews, and Sandra was even nominated for the Golden Raspberry Award in the category of Worst Supporting Actress. But this did not prevent her from becoming recognizable, and surprisingly, it became easier to get roles. Sandra's singing talent came in handy in 1993 for the role of a young country singer in the drama The Thing Called Love. For this movie, Bullock wrote her own song, Heaven Knocking on My Door, and performed it in the film.
I didn't know what to say at first. I couldn't get by those wings. Now here I am in the middle of...
Bullock's breakthrough came in 1994, after the release of the blockbuster Speed. Professional Sense told the director Jean Debont that behind the cute appearance of a young woman hid a heroine capable of turning his film into a real action movie. Hollywood handsome Keanu Reeves was her partner on the set. The filmmakers had to make sure she and Reeves had the right chemistry. Sandra recalled that they had to do all these really physical scenes together, rolling around on the floor and stuff. The chemistry between the colleagues on the set was really undeniable. Many years later, on Ellen, both actors admitted that they were in love with each other during filming.
I think about how sweet Keanu Reeves was and how handsome he was. It was hard. It was really, it was hard for me to like really be serious. Like he would look at me and I'd be like,
Did you know that she had a crush on you? No? Did you
She
have
obviously didn't know I had a crush on her either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe you both had crushes on each other and you were so scared.
We were working.
However, a high-profile romance did not happen because neither of them ever confessed their real feelings. By the way, you can watch more about Keanu Reeves and his notable roles in a separate video dedicated to the biography of that star on our channel. We will leave a link for you in the description. Speed became a truly spectacular film. Explosions, races, high-quality special effects, and stunts, most of which were performed by the actors themselves. Sandra turned out to be a wonderful actress. As a novice, she was not afraid to perform dangerous stunts, gratefully listened to the advice of her colleagues, and gave her 100%. "Rookies are always lucky," Bullock said later. "My body was playing tricks before I could think about it." Once, during the filming of another scene, Sandra almost fell off the bus. She was saved only by the fact that Reeves grabbed her leg in time. The film crew was so engrossed in the process that they spent the budget completing only 75% of the work. The studio allocated additional funds only after successful test screenings of the existing material, but $30 million paid off many times over at the box office. The picture received critical acclaim and collected $350 million. The consensus on Rotten Tomatoes called it a terrific popcorn thriller with outstanding performances from Keanu Reeves, Dennis Hopper, and Sandra Bullock. Speed also won 2 Oscars for Best Sound and Best Editing, and Bullock received the Saturn Award as well as awards in the nominations Best Female Performance and Most Desirable Female at the 1995 MTV Movie Awards. Inspired by her success and film career, Bullock decided to create her own production company, Fortis Films, with her sister. Her father, John Bullock, became its CEO, and her sister, Dezina, became its vice president. The company's headquarters are still located in Austin, Texas, and West Hollywood, California. Fortis Films has been involved in the production of several very successful projects starring Sandra, the first of which were While You Were Sleeping and The Net. In John Turteltaub's romantic comedy While You Were Sleeping, Sandra played the role of a lonely Chicago subway cashier who saved the stranger's life and got caught up in family dramas and new acquaintances. Interestingly, this role was written for Demi Moore, and later it was to be played by Julia Roberts, who refused to participate in the project. Sandra was approved after her appearance in the rom-com Love Elixir No. 9, where the creators saw the image they needed in the young actress. Filming took place at various locations, both real and specially constructed. So, for example, for the hospital scenes, which unfolded in a real hospital in Chicago, they created special scenery for the convenience of filming. But the episodes in the Callaghan family home were filmed in a real turn-of-the-century house in the suburbs of LaGrange, Illinois. The Chicago Department of Transportation also made concessions to the film's creators and made an exception, closing the subway for filming during daytime hours. It is also interesting that the initial plot was diametrically opposed. There was supposed to be a woman in a coma who was accidentally hit by a truck, and a man was supposed to be the main character of a comedy. However, the producers were advised to change the concept because a man following a woman seemed too predatory. And they did not miss. The film was positively received by critics who believed that it was assembled with such skill and with such a charming performance from Sandra Bullock that it gives the formula a good name.
Well, I thought I should introduce myself. My name's Lucy. Lucy Eleanor Moderatz. Think you should know your family thinks we're engaged. Never been engaged before.
While You Were Sleeping was a giant hit at the box office, grossing over $180 million worldwide, the vast majority of which was a net profit, since the film was made on a surprisingly paltry $17 million. For her portrayal of the charming and funny Lucy, Sandra received her first Golden Globe Award nomination. In the next project, which was very different from the previous one, thriller The Net of the same 1995, Bullock starred in the role of a computer programmer who stumbled upon a conspiracy that put her life and the lives of those around her in danger. Interestingly, although this movie is called The Net, it actually tells very little about the early internet. Basically, it's a film about hacking and computer virus protection. Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly praised the actress's performance in the film, saying, "Bullock pulls you into the movie. Her overripe smile and clear, imploring eyes are sometimes evocative of Julia Roberts." The Net became quite successful and grossed $110.6 million at the box office.
Spends all day dashing into fray while making world safe for democracy. At night, playing Bach cantatas.
The girl next door, who became a star of the first echelon, could no longer walk the streets calmly in the arms of Donovan. The lovers had to register at the hotel under different names, and Tate posed as Bullock's bodyguard. However, the relationship between the lovers was going nowhere, and although the couple was already engaged, in 1995 the actors broke up without giving an official reason. In one of the interviews, Sandra only noted, "I can't explain why things worked out the way they did. We both know why it happened." After their breakup, Bullock was distracted by work, this time starring in the 1996 romantic drama In Love and War, directed by Richard Attenborough. The film was an adaptation of the book Hemingway, In Love and War, by Henry S. Villard and James Nigel, and was largely based on real events. Hemingway was played here by Chris O'Donnell. Sandra, who portrayed his beloved Agnes von Karowski, was rumored to have an affair with her co-worker after the movie release. Despite the stellar cast, the film grossed only $25 million at the box office and received mostly negative reviews from critics. But the next project with Bullock's participation became much more successful. The legal drama A Time to Kill, like the previous film, had a literary primary source, John Grisham's 1989 novel of the same name. Sandra here played a member of the defense team in the murder trial of two men who sexually assaulted a young woman. Her colleagues on the set were Samuel L. Jackson, Matthew McConaughey, and Kevin Spacey. For her role, the actress received a Best Actress nomination in MTV Movie Awards. At the same time, Sandra started dating McConaughey. Interestingly, Matthew was rumored to be dating a second co-star from the same film, Ashley Judd, who played his on-screen wife. Sandra and Matt were considered a good couple, moderately romantic and flirtatious, but they had different views on relationships. Matthew was more passive and did not see himself married yet. Bullock wanted a family and children. When the pregnancy test showed 2 stripes, Bullock broke the news to McConaughey. The more than calm reaction of his beloved to the fact that he might soon become a father noticeably cooled the woman's ardor. When it turned out that the test was false positive, Sandra made a willful decision to break off a 2-year relationship with a man who did not want to marry her. The following year, she received $11 million for the movie Speed 2: Cruise Control. The actress hoped that Keanu Reeves would star with her, but when she found out that he would not appear in the sequel, she almost refused to participate. However, Bullock later agreed to star in the film, only to financially support her next project, Hope Floats. Later, she regretted being a part of the sequel and did not like to mention this picture in her interviews. The box office of Speed 2 was much more modest and barely justified the budget of $160 million. The film received 8 nominations for the Golden Raspberry and surpassed all competitors in the title of Worst Sequel. Next, Bullock starred in the film Hope Floats in 1998. The life of her character, an unpretentious housewife, is disrupted when her husband, played by Michael Pear, confesses his infidelity on a talk show. Critic James Berardinelli noted that her undisputed strength lies in a blend of light drama and comedy. Sandra admitted her doubts about the movie and choosing Harry Connick Jr. as a partner on the set.
I was a big pain in the ass in the whole process. And if you ask Linda Obst, my partner, she will tell you the same thing. I quit once. I kept preventing us from making it because it wasn't ready yet. And and when they said Harry Connick, I was like, what? No way. I mean, because I typecast him as who, I hadn't seen a great body of his work, and who this character was that he played in the film was not who I knew him as a human being. And finally Forrest said, you know what, why don't you just see this guy because he's great? And I was like, fine, whatever. And I read with him and he blew me away. And I was wrong. And people are going to constantly remind me of how wrong I am, but I'm glad I was wrong because I just did it because I was scared. I wanted to make the exact right decision, so I was going, who's the obvious choice for this? And nobody could have done it like him, and I wouldn't have had the chemistry with anyone else. I wouldn't have been moved by anyone else. We wouldn't have come up with the extra lines that we had by anybody else. And he's one of the funniest people I've ever met, and good, just a great human being. So if we had not cast him, it would have been the biggest mistake.
But despite all the doubts and the simple plot, the film was liked by the audience and critics, and it was a commercial success, grossing $81.4 million worldwide. But the next film, which was released in the same year, failed at the box office, although it was at the top of the chart in the first weekend in North America. We're talking about the comedy Practical Magic. Bullock and Nicole Kidman play two witch sisters who face a curse that threatens to prevent them from finding true love. Despite the unsuccessful box office, Sandra was not upset. Instead, she donated the dress she wore to the premiere of Practical Magic to be auctioned off on eBay to benefit the Avon Breast Cancer Crusade, which helps women with breast cancer. In the same year, Bullock managed to voice the character in the DreamWorks animation film The Prince of Egypt, and also wrote, produced, and directed the short film Making Sandwiches. The actress told Reader's Digest that she only did it to learn how to direct, and concluded that while she enjoyed producing and acting, she didn't have the talent to lead a film as a director. In 1999, in the romantic comedy Forces of Nature, Sandra played Sarah Lewis, a free-spirit woman who met a man played by Ben Affleck and made a Mrs. Flight. As they tried to reach their destination together, they experienced a series of accidents and unexpected events that made them face their fears and reevaluate their priorities. Critics positively received the tandem of Affleck and Bullock, and Box Office Magazine noted, the combination of Affleck's deadpan by-the-book persona with the spontaneity of Bullock's character sparks with convincing chemistry. The film Forces of Nature grossed $93 million worldwide.
I'm sure you've done this kind of thing before, but it's just not my speed.
Benji, I'll make you a deal, okay?
I will get you on the bus. I'll get you down to Savannah for your wedding. If once we're down there, just for a couple minutes, you pretend like you're my husband.
What do I have to do? Treat you badly and get you to make bad investments?
The beginning of the new millennium for the star turned out to be more than successful, because the unforgettable comedy Miss Congeniality about an FBI agent undercover at a beauty contest was released on the big screens.
Miss Congeniality was sort of my first big producing job. I'd done other smaller ones, but I had this one by the reins. I remember I was making 28 days. We were making script notes. We were going through and who do we hire and with Mark Lawrence and where are we going to shoot? Let's shoot in Austin, Texas, where it's 120 degrees and we're in a pageant outfit with a beehive on our head. And what are we doing? But it just felt right to make that film. For those girls that didn't have the ingenue in them like I didn't have the ingenue in me when I was looking at film.
Sandra Bullock and her co-star Benjamin Bratt, who were already colleagues on the set in 1993 and played cops in Demolition Man, performed all the fight scenes throughout the film. And although stuntmen were involved in the project, they were needed rather as consultants and only gave advice on the correctness of certain techniques. There were also minor incidents. The actress once accidentally injured Bratt when she had to kick him in the calf after he said, "Yes, you have to wear the bathing suit." Speaking of techniques, in the scene where Gracie demonstrates self-defense techniques on Benjamin during the talent competition, she uses the acronym SING, solar plexus, instep, nose, groin. The technique is real, except it's called sign because the nose is hit last. Filming took place in Sandra's native Austin. To make the streets of the city look more New York-y, brown plastic bags with fake garbage were placed near the buildings and fake yellow taxis were cruising the streets. Although most of the driving scenes involved a stunt driver, Bullock did some of her own stunts behind the wheel, which she had prepared beforehand. But in the scene where Sandra's character prepares for the general dance together with the other contestants, the actress deliberately did not participate in the rehearsals and really did not keep up with the choreography, which brought its own comedic effect. There were also curiosities at the film premiere. After all, when Bullock got out of her car on the red carpet, she tripped and fell, as her character did several times in the film. After watching the movie, many viewers thought that the star actually staged her fall for a comedic reference to her picture, but it turned out that she did it unintentionally.
Don't mess with me. Whoa, I'm fine.
The film became another financial success for the star, grossing $212 million at the global box office. And the role of a charming and eccentric undercover agent brought Sandra a second nomination for the Golden Globe Award. On December 20th, 2000, Bullock was involved in a private plane crash on the runway from which she and two crew members escaped unharmed. The reason was the pilot's error and the blizzard. During a night landing at Jackson Hole Airport in Wyoming, the crew was unable to turn on the runway lights. After she survived the plane crash, Sandra said that she was deathly afraid of flying. In the same year, in the Betty Thomas's drama 28 Days, Bullock played the role of a newspaper columnist who was ordered to undergo a rehabilitation program for alcoholism. In preparation for this role, Bullock spent several days in a rehabilitation center for people with alcohol addiction. Reviews from critics were mixed, but the film turned out to be quite successful and grossed $62 million at the global box office. Her career success was suddenly overshadowed by a tragedy in her personal life. Sandra lost her mother. After hearing of her death, the actress immediately rushed home to Texas. This loss was not easy for her. She was very upset and just wanted to be with her family and friends. Before Sandra's mother died, she told her daughter not to be like her, withdrawn, and not to be afraid of feelings. Thanks to that conversation, the star later admitted that she became more open and bolder in expressing her emotions, and it was then that Bullock began her charity work, which she does not stop to this day. For example, in 2004, the actress donated $1 million to the Red Cross organization to help people who had suffered after the tsunami in Asia, and 6 years later, another one. This time for Doctors Without Borders after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. At the same time, together with other public figures, Bullock made a public statement in which she called on people to sign a petition to eliminate the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. For her philanthropic work, the star was inducted into the Warren Easton Hall of Fame in 2012 and was honored with the Favorite Humanitarian Award at the 39th People's Choice Awards for her contributions to the development of Warren Easton High School in New Orleans, which was seriously damaged by Hurricane Katrina. Having survived her mother's loss, Bullock started working again. On the set of the psychological thriller Murder by Numbers, Sandra met Ryan Gosling. Soon, the actors began an affair, which quickly became public. The couple made headlines due to their age difference. Bullock was 37 years old when they started dating, and Ryan Gosling was 21 years old. That is, the age difference was no more, no less than 16 years. I live my life at a manic pace, and he's taught me to disregard all that isn't important. He's like a little Buddha. The actress also shared that film sets were breeding grounds for that kind of stuff, so you just have to have a good set of rules going into it. It's the greatest dating service on the planet. You take two people who normally can't leave the house, who don't know if people are with them for the right reasons, and they get paired up because they have chemistry, and they happen to fall in love. However, the actors' romance was not long-lasting, and in 2003, they parted ways. The thriller Murder by Numbers was released on the big screens in 2002. Film critic Roger Ebert praised the actress's performance, saying Bullock does a good job here, working against her natural likability, creating a character you'd like to like and could like if she weren't so sad, strange, and turned in upon herself. But the star's real life at that time also turned into a kind of thriller because Sandra began to be pursued by a man named Thomas James Weldon. In 2003, Bullock obtained a restraining order against him, which was renewed in 2006. Bullock said Weldon followed her from Michigan to Texas and California, sending her emails and faxes and leaving voicemail messages. And the actress's sister, Jazina, said that the man once called Sandra 7 times in 2 days trying to arrange a date. I've not been informed nor received any indication that the defendant recognizes that his fixation on me is delusional and that he will not resume stalking and harassing me, members of my family, and employees of Fortis Films Inc. when and if he is released, Bullock told the court. After the document expired and Weldon was released from a mental hospital, he again traveled across several states to find the actress. She eventually obtained another restraining order. In the same 2002, together with Hugh Grant, Sandra appeared in the romantic comedy 2 Weeks' Notice, where she played the role of a lawyer who left her boss. The film's success was largely due to the incredible chemistry of the leading actors. Liz Braun of Jam movies considered Bullock and Grant perfectly paired, saying, "The script allows the two actors to be at their comedic best, even though the film as a whole is amateurish in many ways." Oddly enough, Sandra did not have an affair with Hugh. The actors, who became loyal friends during filming, only laughed at the paparazzi. "Sandy drives me crazy, but I'm with her only for sex," the actor told reporters, playfully winking at his friend.
There's not even a name for it.
Well, that's not like I'm enjoying it either, you know. Before you came into my life, I was capable of making all kinds of decisions. Now I can't. I'm addicted. I have to know what you think.
That same year, the star received the Raul Julia Award for Excellence for promoting career opportunities for Hispanic talent in the media and entertainment industry as an executive producer of the sitcom George Lopez. She also made several appearances on the show as Accident Amy, an accident-prone factory worker run by Lopez. In 2004, as part of a large cast, Bullock played the wife of a district attorney in the drama Crash, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture. The star's performance was also positively evaluated, and some critics suggested that it was the best performance of her career at that time. For the film Crash, she, along with other actors, received the Screen Actors Guild Award in the nomination Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. Where do you think Sandra played the best? Write your opinion in the comments. About the choice of roles at that time, the actress said,
I think back on my dreaming of what I wanted to play since a very young age. I always wanted the roles that the men had. I would never imagine myself as the beautiful blonde, like the girlfriend, because I was like, well, I don't look like that, so I'm not going to get those roles. What I was drawn to was the energy and the fire and the comedy and physical comedy and the action and the drama that the men got to do, the substance. I didn't see myself as the sexy bombshell, which is really what was being represented when I was watching movies as a kid.
Sandra's strong nature was manifested not only in her characters, but also in real life, where the star often had to stand up for herself. In October 2004, Bullock won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Benny Donahue, the builder of her Austin lake house. A jury found the house uninhabitable. Since then, it has been destroyed and rebuilt. Donahue and his insurer later settled with Bullock for about half of the verdict. In 2005, Bullock finally stopped being the most famous bachelorette and married Jesse James, a motorcycle designer and host of the show Monster Garage on the Discovery Channel. They first met when Bullock arranged a meeting with James for her 10-year-old godson and showman fan as a Christmas present. No one could believe that such a controversial man would become the chosen one of the girl next door. However, in an interview with Barbara Walters, Sandra noted that she and Jesse were not so different.
The end result in life that we both want is the same. The thing we want at the end of the day is the same, is that we want to come home. You know, we don't want to, he's not out in bars. He works hard. He can put up with me. I mean, my God, Barbara, look at me. Do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you bring a spotlight that someone doesn't.
He has to go to a premiere now and then. He has to be Mr. Bullock or whatever his name may be.
Oh, he'll never be Mr. Bullock.
No, I know that.
Answering a question about her husband's brutal image, Bullock told People magazine, "No one knows what someone is like based on appearance. There are people who look very innocent, loving, and church-going who cheat on their spouses, don't take care of their children, and are horrible to humanity." Do you think Jesse and Sandra were suitable for each other? Write in the comments. It'll be interesting to hear your opinion. In addition to marriage, this year was also financially successful for the actress because she received $17.5 million for the comedy Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous. And although the film received mostly negative reviews and critic Roger Ebert called the film a double unnecessary sequel, which in fact was nominated for the Golden Raspberry for the worst film and the worst actress, for Sandra it was another experience and work on mistakes, especially since in 2005 she became one of the laureates of the Women in Film Crystal Award. In November 2006, Bullock and her husband opened Best Bistro on 6th West Street in Austin, Texas. She later opened another business, Walton's Fancy and Staple, across the street in a building she renovated. Walton's is a bakery, fine dining restaurant, and flower shop and offers other services including event planning. After nearly 9 years in business, Best Bistro closed on September 20th, 2015, while Walton's Fancy and Staple is still open today. A successful business did not hinder Bullock's career. On the contrary, she began to try herself in different roles and play in different genres. In 2006, Bullock briefly reunited with Keanu Reeves for the romantic drama The Lake House. Their characters were separated throughout the film in time and space, and the actors spent only 2 weeks together during filming. In the drama Infamous, based on George Plimpton's book Truman Capote in 1997, the actress appeared in the image of the writer Harper Lee, known to everyone for the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Her film partners were Toby Jones and Daniel Craig. And if The Lake House was successful at the box office, Infamous wasn't so, although it received generally positive reviews. The star also appeared in the supernatural thriller Premonition as a housewife who relives the days of her husband's death in non-chronological order. Despite negative reviews, the film grossed $84.1 million worldwide. After that, Bullock took a short break from filming, and in 2009 she made a triumphant appearance as the annoying editor-in-chief Margaret Tate in the 2009 romantic comedy The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds. The role of Margaret was originally offered to Julia Roberts, but she turned it down due to financial disputes with the studio. Bullock, after reading the script, agreed to participate in the project because she saw its potential. Many consider this film to be the star's naked debut. In fact, she had previously appeared nude in the 1993 adventure drama Fire on the Amazon, which was released before the successful Speed and was poorly remembered by fans. Bullock and Reynolds have been friends for 9 years, so they felt awkward at first when filming their memorable nude scene. However, they quickly got used to it and perceived it as a humorous moment. If you're naked and you're trying to be sexy, you don't really make as much money as if you're naked and you're funny, explained the actress. This film needs my nudity to be funny. Interestingly, the main characters were often credited with romantic relationships, which both denied, saying that they were happy with their partners at the time. Although most of the film is set in Alaska, it was actually filmed in Boston and on Boston's North Shore. In one of the scenes, you can even see the famous Red Hut where many famous artists and photographers wrote their works. Snow-capped mountains, or any mountains for that matter, are nowhere to be found on the North Shore. They were added digitally. During filming in Massachusetts, Sandra and her husband became victims of a car accident. A drunk driver crashed into the car of a star couple. Fortunately, no one from both cars was injured. Meanwhile, the proposal justified the efforts and funds invested in it and grossed $317 million at the global box office. After the film premiere, Sandra told the British television channel GMTV that she knew why the picture became the highest grosser for her. Obviously, because she was naked, joked the star. I'm going to be naked in every single film. Can you imagine me at 70? Zac Efron doing a big film. There I am, running naked in the background. Just back and forth until someone notices. Big box office. They're all going to want me in their film. For the role of Margaret, Sandra received her third Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy.
To the walls, to the sweat drips down my balls, to all you bitches crawl.
That same year, the drama The Blind Side took the second place after New Moon with $34.2 million, making it Bullock's second biggest opening weekend ever. In total, it grossed more than $309 million, making it Bullock's highest grossing film in the United States and the star's fourth highest grossing worldwide. The Blind Side also became the first picture in history to cross the $200 million mark with only one top female star. Bullock, played by Leigh-Anne Toy, Michael O'Hare's adoptive mother, a role she initially turned down 3 times because of the discomfort of portraying a devout Christian. According to her own words, Bullock believed that she would not be able to objectively present the beliefs of such a person on the screen. But after meeting with the real Leigh-Anne Toy, the actress not only agreed to participate in the project, but also cut her salary and agreed to receive a percentage of the profits in return. The women spent a lot of time together, and Sandra tried to copy Tui in everything from her hair and nail polish color to her accent and manners. It's interesting that Julia Roberts also refused the role of Leigh-Anne at one time and apparently regretted it several times because for the portrayal of the athlete's adoptive mother, Bullock was awarded the Oscar and Golden Globe Awards as well as the Screen Actors Guild Award and Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Actress. The Blind Side also won the Academy Award for Best Picture. At the ceremony, Sandra competed for the desired statuette with the unsurpassed Meryl Streep, and when Bullock won the nomination, she approached her opponent and kissed her on the lips, something in the style, "kill him with kindness." Later, Meryl thanked the winner in her own way.
To my office, I go, "Oh my God, Meryl Streep sent you flowers." I was like, "Meryl Streep sent me flowers," and up comes this nice bottom part with like 3 dead orchids on it. And a note that said, "Die, bitch, love Meryl."
Awarding Bullock with an Oscar gave her another unique distinction. The day before, the actress received the anti-prize Golden Raspberry for the role of an eccentric author of crossword puzzles in the film All About Steve. Thus, she became the only actress in history to receive both awards in the same year. It is also interesting that the difference between the ceremonies was only 2 days. By the way, Bullock became one of the few stars in the 30-year history of the Golden Raspberry Award who personally accepted this reward. However, just 10 days after Bullock won the Oscar for Best Actress, she and the rest of the world learned about her husband's infidelity. And all because several women said they had an affair with James during his marriage to Sandra. The actress had to cancel the European promotional tour of the film The Blind Side, citing unforeseen personal reasons. On March 18, 2010, James responded to rumors of infidelity by publicly apologizing to his wife. He stated, "The vast majority of the allegations reported are untrue and unfounded. Beyond that, I will not dignify these private matters with any further public comment. There is only one person to blame for this whole situation, and that is me." James's publicist later announced that James was undergoing psychological rehab to, quote, "deal with personal issues and keep the relationship with his wife." However, apparently, he did not succeed, because a month later, Sandra filed for divorce, and by the end of June, she was a free woman again. At the same time, she announced that she planned to adopt a boy who was born in January 2010 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Bullock and James began the adoption process together 4 months before the public scandal. Bullock's son started living with him in January. Louis was only a few days old when he became a part of the new mother's life. When Louis came into my life, he was put into my arm at 10 days old, and I just knew this was my path, the actress said. Given the couple's separation and subsequent divorce, Bullock continued adoption as a single mother. It was a very difficult and exhausting process for the star. Foster care is a system that exists and people don't know about it because it's a difficult thing to talk about, she explained. It gets deep and it gets dark. When I first went into the process myself, you have to prove that you're a capable parent. You're in the judgment cage. And I got halfway through it and I said, I can't do this. However, Sandra overcame all the difficulties that stood in her way to true happiness, and now she could experience all the joys of motherhood. According to Entertainment Weekly, by 2010, Bullock courted for virtually every female starring role Hollywood has to offer. Ben Affleck, her partner in the romantic comedy Forces of Nature, stated, "Every movie you hear about and every script I see, they say, we're going after Sandra Bullock for the woman." However, after adopting Louis, the star decided to avoid the flood of offers in favor of, quote, quietly putting acting on hold to focus on her son. She also became more selective about the projects in which the actress still agreed to participate. As I've gotten older, I say no a lot more. I've become a better fighter for my work. I didn't have the guts to do that before. In 2011, she co-starred with Tom Hanks as a widow in the drama Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, an adaptation of the novel of the same name. Despite mixed reviews, the film was nominated for numerous awards, including the Academy Award for Best Picture, and Bullock was nominated for the Teen Choice Awards as Favorite Actress Drama. In 2013, the actress joined other Hollywood legends at the TCL Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, leaving her hand and footprints in the cement of the theater's forecourt and receiving her own star on the Walk of Fame. This year also brought Bullock a new wave of popularity because 2 successful films with her participation were released on the big screens. In the comedy The Heat, FBI Special Agent Sarah Ashburn, played by Sandra, and Boston Detective Shannon Mullins, played by Melissa McCarthy, team up to take down a ruthless drug lord, but their very different personalities lead to many comedic clashes. It's interesting that in life, the actresses have diametrically opposite tempers to their characters.
She's the girly girl. I'm the one that has the trash mouth. So it's
true.
Sort of like if you looked at the kind of.
I was playing her,
and I was playing her. It's kind. If you think about it, it's kind of true. Maybe.
The actresses at that time were involved in other projects, but still agreed to experiment and star in an action film with a female cast. There were people suspicious of this attempt who thought girls won't want to see a cop action movie and guys won't want to see 2 girls holding guns and we'd cancel out our potential audience. The film's producer, Jeno Topping, said. Nevertheless, the studio took a risk and gave the project the green light. The film features Sandra's actual 1982 yearbook from Washington Lee High School in Arlington, Virginia. However, the art department photoshopped Bullock's photo to add glasses and braces that she didn't have in her original high school portrait and removed all of the book's captions. The film received mostly positive reviews from critics who praised the chemistry and performances of Bullock and McCarthy, although some called the film plot predictable. That did not prevent The Heat from becoming a summer hit at the global box office and grossing $230 million. In the completely different film Gravity, Sandra played an astronaut who was stuck in space. The sci-fi thriller starring Bullock and George Clooney appeared at the 70th Venice Film Festival and was released on October 4, 2013 to coincide with the start of World Space Week. Interestingly, the 2 stars in real life are true friends and met before becoming famous at a mutual friend's party where a drunken Clooney tried to parody Buddy Hackett. "We've known each other for so long," Bullock said. "Just his joy for life and who he is in the workspace is so infectious, and he loves what he does so much." George also supported his friend during the divorce process. The shooting process was not easy. Sandra was placed in a giant mechanical installation, which was later nicknamed Sandy's Cage. This process took a significant amount of time, so the actress decided to stay in it for up to 10 hours a day, communicating with others through a headset. The film director Alfonso Cuarón said that his most important task was to make the set as attractive and non-claustrophobic as possible. The team tried to do this by throwing a celebration every day Bullock arrived. Because of the long frames, the star had to memorize long combinations of precise movements at different stages of shooting. And during the entrance of the airlock to the International Space Station, the actress sat on a platform with a bicycle seat and her right leg was tied to a 2-part brace in a specially made chamber. She then mimed movements that were carefully choreographed while the camera slowly rotated to give the illusion of her and the station rotating. In post-production, Bullock's right leg and braces were completely erased and recreated using CGI. During the filming of the water scene, Cuarón held his breath with Sandra to make sure he wasn't asking too much of her. He soon discovered that his lung capacity could not compete with that of the star. Interestingly, the movie was more expensive than the actual Indian Mars orbiter mission, also known as Mangalyaan. The budget for the picture was $100 million, compared to $74 million for the mission. Gravity received universal critical acclaim and a standing ovation in Venice. The film was called the most realistic and beautifully choreographed film ever set in space, and some critics considered Bullock's performance the best of her career. Gravity grossed $716 million worldwide and became the star's second highest grossing film. For her portrayal of Dr. Ryan Stone, Bullock was nominated for an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, a BAFTA, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and a Critics' Choice Award for Best Actress. About her performance, Variety wrote, "Bullock inhabits the role with grave dignity and hints at Stone's past scars with sensitivity and tact, and she holds the screen effortlessly once Gravity becomes a veritable one-woman show. The actress remains fully present emotionally, projecting a very appealing combo of vulnerability, intelligence, and determination that not only wins us over immediately, but sustains attention all the way through the cathartic closing reels."
I want to hear you say you're going to make it. Come on, Ryan.
I'm gonna make it.
On June 8, 2014, Bullock was awakened at 5:30 a.m. in her Los Angeles home by a loud bang. The actress, who was at home alone, saw a man walk past her bedroom door. She hid in a closet, locked herself in it, and dialed 911 when the man knocked on her bedroom door.
My house was broken into, I was in it.
And that's a different story.
It's a different story, especially when you've been watching Last 48 Hours or Dateline,
no.
and I'm like,
Yes.
I'm in the
Or
closet
ID,
going,
yeah.
I was literally in the closet going, this doesn't end well. I'm in the closet, not gonna help, you know, but it was the one night that Louis wasn't with me. It was the one night that our nanny goes, let me just take him to my apartment, which is up the street, because you're gonna be out late. And I went, had he been home?
When police arrested Joshua Corbett, the man who broke into her home, they discovered it wasn't a random break-in. The notebook that the criminal had with him contained illegible diary-like entries. He wrote, "I love you and you are very special to me. And without you in my life, there is only misery. I've waited and waited, but you never come." In other notes, the man described his intention to sexually assault the actress, according to court documents. What's more, surveillance cameras around Bullock's house showed him hiding behind it 3 days before the incident. Speaking about the harrowing ordeal on Red Table Talk, Bullock admitted that she has since suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and hasn't been alone since the day of the evasion. Since then, she consulted a psychologist, was treated for PTSD, and found that therapy was the most healing for her. In 2017, Corbett was sentenced to 5 years of probation for stalking the star and breaking into her home. He was ordered to stay away from Bullock for 10 years. Meanwhile, the actress's family received a new member. In 2015, she announced that she adopted 3-year-old Layla. Bullock took the girl into custody even before the adoption process was completed. The star had to announce her on the cover of People magazine after paparazzi threatened to release the news without her consent. "You feel it's very much like witness protection," she told the publication. "Unbeknownst to me, a photographer had followed us and took a photo of us in line. The next day, I learned that a photo of her was being shopped around for sale to every outlet around the world. I had promised and legally agreed to protect her from something like this, and here I was chasing down lawyers, having them begging to keep her safe." Like the first adoption, the second one was not easy. Bullock shared that she had what she described as an out-of-body experience where they literally sit you down and ask you, "So what do you think is the worst kind of abuse? What is the worst kind of drugs and alcohol?" Bullock said she didn't know what to say. They were all bad. "You're just going, if I don't answer this right, I'm not fit," she added. By the time Layla was 2.5 years old, she had already been in 3 separate foster care systems, and the process of adjusting to a new home and a new mother seemed very problematic at first. "I had my kids in my walk-in closet with their little beds because I was so afraid not to have them super close to me. the star explained, and I would walk in and I wouldn't be able to find her. She'd be in the closet with all her clothes on. She'd be on a bookshelf. She'd be hiding, and she'd always be ready to leave. She was always telling me she was leaving. Bullock said it was sometimes funny when her daughter said she would leave home because she's all power, but she accepted the child's statements and tried to be understanding and caring. She'd say, "I'm leaving you," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to be right behind you, so just know that you can leave, but I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." In short, it wasn't easy. Bullock shared that she had to take lessons on how to parent a traumatized child and was evaluated before being allowed to proceed with the adoption process. The actress also admitted that sometimes she couldn't help but take Layla's behavior personally, but soon she began to understand that it was just her daughter's survival instinct. Layla would hide food, it's survival. Her spirit and just who she is has pushed her forward beyond the triggers and the fears. Sandra said, "They'll come up for the rest of her life. There will be fears that she has, but she knows that wherever she chooses to go to school, I'm moving there. That's the joke in the house. You guys need to pick the same college if you go, the same city to live in, because I'm going to be living there." Bullock said that although being a mother is not easy, she always knew that she would experience the joys of motherhood. She also knew that she would not become a mother at a young age, and while she couldn't have known that she would one day become Louis and Layla's mom, she said she didn't believe it was a coincidence. "The sweetest part of it is that I found out about both babies when I was in the exact same place. I was in the place where my mother was buried." The star recalled, "It makes me very emotional, but I feel beyond a shadow of a doubt that my mother brought me these children." As a wonderful mother, Bullock also loves pets. For the comfort of her two dogs, Ruby and Poppy, when traveling in the car, she designed special adjustable and comfortable seatbelts. Perhaps it was motherhood that inspired the actress to take part in the animated film Minions. However, Sandra's character, Scarlet Overkill, is a villain and most likely doesn't care much about family values, seeking only world recognition and the British crown. The film itself became the star's highest grossing film, with a worldwide gross of more than $1.1 billion US. That same year, the actress became an executive producer and starred as a political consultant hired to win the Bolivian presidential election in the drama Our Brand is Crisis, based on Rachel Boynton's 2005 documentary of the same name. Peter de Bruges of Variety recognized that Bullock's portrayal is, quote, "easily one of the best female roles of the last 10 years, but the film had the worst wide release of her career." But the all-female spin-off of the Ocean's 11 franchise, directed by Gary Ross called Ocean's 8, became much more successful for the star. Here, Bullock played Debbie Ocean, Danny Ocean's sister, who helps plan an elaborate heist at the annual Met Gala in New York. The star cast, which besides Sandra, included Kate Blanchett, Helena Bonham Carter, Anna Hathaway, and Rihanna, ensured the public's interest in the project. Josh Spiegel, from The Hollywood Magazine, called the film a welcome return to the big screen for Bullock, and noted, quote, "She has reached a point in her career where she chooses her roles with care. Before Gravity, she'd only co-starred in a handful of films over the previous 5 years, including her Oscar-winning turn in The Blind Side. Ocean's 8 is Bullock's first true franchise film in decades, and it suggests that her decision to be more selective in which projects she picks can pay off in dividends." Ocean's 8 was the franchise's best debut and eventually grossed $297 million worldwide. Bullock came to the film premiere with her new boyfriend, photographer Brian Randall. The couple met back in 2015 when Randall was hired to photograph her son Louis. Sandra didn't share the details of her relationship with the press, and she does not have social networks, so her personal life remains closed to the public. However, in several interviews, she told about her chosen one that he's super kind. For the kids, he's sort of number one and I'm number two. But I get it because he's more fun and has better treats. He's the example I would want my children to have. I don't always agree with him and he doesn't always agree with me, but he is an example even when I don't agree with him. And Bullock called Randall the love of her life. Her next work was the 2018 Netflix post-apocalyptic horror film Bird Box, based on the novel of the same name. In it, Sandra played a woman who must find a way to save her children despite the potential threat from an invisible enemy. It was Bullock's first horror film since 1993's The Vanishing. The actress does not like horror films and is very reluctant to act in them. This picture was not an exception, and at first, the actress refused to participate in the project. However, after discussing all the details with the studio, she not only agreed to the filming, but also persuaded her friend, actress Sarah Paulson, to take part in the film and play the sister of Sandra's character. Bullock had to spend most of the filming process blindfolded. As the star ditched the slits in her headband for security, she bumped into the cameras several times, banging her head against them. The birds in the frame were real, except for those cases when they started to fuss, then they were replaced with digital ones. Bird Box inspired many people to a kind of challenge in which they tried to overcome the distance blindfolded both indoors and outdoors. When videos of people bumping into objects and hurting themselves started appearing on social media, Netflix issued a statement to discourage viewers from participating in the so-called Bird Box challenge. That didn't stop a Utah girl who blindly drove into the oncoming lane and crashed. Despite the ambiguous impact of the film on its viewers, it became a real hit on Netflix. In July 2020, representatives of the streaming platform revealed that 89 million subscribers to their service actually watched the film in its first 4 weeks of release, one of the highest numbers for a Netflix original film. Bullock also received acclaim for her performance, with Variety and The Wrap describing her as, quote, wonderfully self-reliant and fascinating and terrifying to watch, respectively. Since in the film she was forced to take a stranger's girl under her care and build a relationship with her, she was often asked in interviews how she coped with her adopted children in reality, to which Sandra replied, let's all just refer to these kids as our kids. Don't say my adopted child. No one calls their kid their, oh shit, I went to a bar and got knocked up, child. Let's just say our children.
Because, and I know how much, you're so sweet, and when you were yelling at them, I just thought that must have been so hard to yell at those kids.
Actually, it was really easy.
Why is that?
Because you never let yourself get to that place unless you're really scared. If your child runs out into the street, you don't go, get back here, you go, what are you doing? Get over here. But you don't get to that place because there's usually people watching, so you're like, get back here. So you've got to be those things that you aren't allowed to be when you're really, really scared.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Yeah. We saw a different side of Sandy.
The actress doesn't often talk about her personal life, but she's shown telling how her children treat her. When I'm gone, I'm missed. When I'm there, I'm annoying. And that's exactly the way it should be. The star also confessed her boundless love for her son and daughter. I love who they are. Every day I get to see who they are. I am one of the lucky individuals that gets to be around my children all the time and see who they get to grow up and be. When asked if Lewis and Layla consider her a cool mom, she replied, no, not at all. Not unless I bring home some kind of treat. Last night I came home with donuts. I was so incredibly cool at that moment. Despite all the positives, the star also shares her fears. As a white parent who loves her children more than life itself, I'm scared of everything. I know I'm laying all kinds of existential anxiety on them. I have to think about what they're going to experience leaving the home. They're going to have my fear, but how can I make sure that my anxiety is accurate? Protective. Sandra tries to be a progressive mother and listens to her children's needs. I let them teach me and tell me what they need to know. I thought I was educated and woke, but guess what? I wasn't. In another Netflix project, Nora Fingscheid's drama, The Unforgivable, Bullock played a woman who was released from prison after serving a sentence for a violent crime. At the time of its release, The Unforgivable became the 5th most streamed film on the platform.
Skip school a lot? We all do things we probably shouldn't, but we get back on track, right?
Yeah.
Before moving on to the last chapter, we would be grateful if you would subscribe to our channel and press the bell button to receive notifications of new videos. We always have something interesting to show you. In 2022, Sandra played the role of successful but depressed best-selling novelist Loretta Sage in the romantic comedy adventure film The Lost City. Her co-stars were Channing Tatum, who portrayed Loretta's book cover model, and Daniel Radcliffe as the main antagonist. By the way, Bullock always said that if she were not an actress, she would like to become a novelist, so even in this form, her dream came true to some extent. Filming took place in the Dominican Republic. To make the existence of the Lost City more convincing, the builders dug tunnels and laid ruins, which took a lot of time. Ryan Reynolds, who was already in a duet with Bullock in the comedy The Proposal, was initially thought to play the main male role, but an agreement could not be reached. However, another actor from the same film, Oscar Nunez, appeared in The Lost City, again in a minor role. The book tour the main character went on was called Romancing the Page, a reference to the 1984 action-adventure Romancing the Stone. In fact, this film became a kind of movie remake. At one point, the project's working title was The Lost City of D, but the letter D was later removed, leaving it only in the book title, written by Loretta. The ridiculous pink suit with sequins became a kind of comedic moment in the film because it showed the main character in the jungle from afar, making it impossible for her to hide and escape from her pursuers. Furthermore, the actress spent many hours on heels, which became an exhausting experience for her, but brought her highlight to the movie. Most of all, many liked the scene with Loretta's rescue from the kidnappers by Brad Pitt and Channing Tatum, which, it turns out, was shot from the first take.
There's one scene in this film that was done only in one take. There's a wheelbarrow.
That man was already unconscious.
I wanted to get one in.
Excuse me, would it be possible to remove me from the chair?
No time.
We should definitely go.
Channing and Brad, I gotta give them all the props. All I ask is that you don't drop me, flip me, run over me. I just didn't want to die.
Action!
By the way, Pitt was not in the initial list of actors, and he did not want to participate in the film. However, Brad was persuaded by his common hairdresser with Bullock. In gratitude for his cameo, the star in turn also appeared in the actor's film Bullet Train, voicing one of the characters, Maria Beadle, the handler of Brad Pitt's Ladybug. As for The Lost City, the film was well received by critics, who praised the chemistry between Bullock and Tatum despite their rather large age difference. By the way, if you want a video about this handsome actor, write in the comments and we will promise that we'll take your wishes into account. The Lost City grossed $190.8 million worldwide, making Sandra the first actress to have $100 million earners in live-action star vehicles over 4 different decades, according to Forbes. That same year, after a promotional tour for the latest film, Bullock took a short break to spend more time with her beautiful babies. But she also noted that she will eventually return. "I'm not retiring, just going to not spend time in front of the camera for a while," she said in an interview with People magazine. "I have beautiful babies. I'd rather look at them every day and have them be mad at me and annoyed and make memories with them for right now. I never said I'm retiring. If I decide to retire, then I'll make that announcement. A very important announcement that no one will care about." And while fans of the actress were waiting to see her again on the big screens, shocking news appeared. In the summer of 2023, Sandra's partner died at the age of 57 from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It turned out that Brian Randall had been battling the disease for 3 years. Sandra has had a difficult ordeal, and we sincerely sympathize with her. We believe that she will find the strength to live on, for the sake of the beloved, their wonderful children, and herself, because she's an example of how self-belief can make any dream come true. Sandra took a break from her career for a couple of years, and that's understandable. She wanted to focus on living at home with the kids. But in 2024, rumors began to appear that the actress was preparing to return. According to a source close to her, Sandra missed work. For example, they started talking about the fact that Bullock plans to reunite with Nicole Kidman for the continuation of the famous film Practical Magic. In addition, Sandra would not mind reuniting with Keanu Reeves. "Before I die, before I leave this planet, I do think Keanu and I need to do something in front of the camera," the actress said in an interview. Reeves readily agreed. "I would love to work with you again before our eyes close," he replied. Sandra Bullock's kindness melts the coldest hearts. Her humor and directness attract people at first glance. Her motherly love cannot help but fascinate, and every film with her participation becomes unforgettable and replenishes the lists of the best in their genres. You can treat Sandra as you like, but her masterful performance and the disparate characters she embodies on screen really speak to the undoubted acting talent of this incredible woman. We would like to remind you that there are many more exciting stories about actors of the film industry on our channel. You can find little-known facts from their lives, interesting incidents in the film sets, and much more by clicking on the video that appeared on the screen. We would also be grateful for liking this video.